So for this video, we are going to be taking on yet another Master difficulty encounter from Return to Clockwork City. This one in particular is the Return to the Inner Curiosity, but this one is going to be versus Swims at Night. So I've already done a video on this encounter and how to beat it when you are playing against Laneth. This video is going to be for Swims at Night. Now, the boss that you get for this encounter is going to be dependent upon the choice you made at the end of the last act. Essentially, whoever you chose to play as sacrifices themselves for the greater good, and then they come back as a reanimated boss for this encounter. So, if you're looking for this encounter but versus Laneth, go check out one of the other videos that I've already made. But for this encounter, this is as if we are playing against Swims at Night. So, the deck list, as you can see on the screen, is a Control Mage deck, and you'll see why we choose this particular one here in a moment, but we'll go ahead and dive right in. There aren't really any special conditions with the lanes themselves for this encounter, but the enemy does start with certain creatures in play, and then we get to start with the artifacts that we spent the previous encounters gathering up. Alright, so we don't need 2 dagger falls. 1 should be fine, so this is okay. Alright, so real quick, the opponent starts with a Venom Tongue and a Hist Speaker in each lane, and then in the field lane in particular, they also start with a Black Rose Herbalist. The Herbalist is kind of troublesome because it will heal other friendly creatures at the start of the turn. So until you get rid of this, your Keening doesn't get to do as much work as you would potentially like. But thankfully, this Control Mage deck packs a lot of ways to kill this early. We do have Executes, and then we also run some Arrow Storms. So even if you don't clear the things that we're about to clear in the first couple of turns, if you draw an Arrow Storm, it's actually pretty fantastic in this. Also, real quick before we go through the encounter, we do run Daggerfall Mages and Breton Conjurers because they are fantastic when you use Wraithguard and or Keening. Keening gives you a way to trigger either one of them, Breton Conjurer especially, and then Wraithguard lets you reward them to just continue to generate some pretty insane value. Sunder here also lets you move the Breton Conjurer or the Daggerfall Mages around, so you can really kind of control the battlefield. The enemy deck for this encounter does run Mummify, so despite your awesome wards, they can counter it, but alas, we're going to try to get value out of them. Now, let's get to beating this encounter. For this particular hand, we're going to start first turn with just getting an Execute here so that we don't have to worry about the Herbalist. And then we're also going to go ahead and move this friendly creature over so that when we use Keening, we can do the maximum amount of damage to creatures. And then pass the turn.
What have we here?
So again, you can see a bunch of cheaper creatures. Creatures with power of 2 or less, which is yet another reason why you would potentially consider running Arrow Storm. We are going to go ahead and still do some damage here. Let's also go ahead and move that, but we want to shackle that. We don't want to give them free curses. And there's no reason to not go ahead and throw a ward on that.
Do not vex me.
So they say,
Do not vex me.
okay,
My scales
I see
move
you.
in shadow.
Alright, so a couple of different ways that we could tackle this. We didn't draw a way, sadly, to remove this directly right now. So what we're actually going to do is we're just going to go ahead and, again, use our artifact. The artifacts are a big help with just kind of clearing all this up. Go ahead and use that, clear that. Then we're going to still use Keening, not only because it clears that, but because it'll also clear this so that they do not get the ramp from this Venom Tongue. So this is actually a case where suiciding our own creature is entirely reasonable. And we'll play a Daggerfall, call it good. hopefully you're kind of seeing how you can utilize these to the best of our ability. Another thing to note about this deck that we are running is there are a lot of prophecies. We do also run Firestorm, because again, you saw a lot of smaller creatures. This is yet another one that Firestorm would kill. Piercing Javelins, Lightning Bolts, etc., etc. So, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and get the Firebolt there. Get some damage, because why not? And move that over so you can maybe use that to start clearing stuff over there.
Do not vex me.
So the early pressure they started with, I actually think in this case getting rid of the lethal is more important.
What have we here?
So we're getting rid of a lot of the early tempo that they get because of their start. A lot of different ways that we could handle this, but this is still likely our biggest threat. I mean, when it's all said and done. And as such, we need to either Piercing Javelin it or Lightning Bolt it. Now, this particular enemy deck does run some rather large creatures. It is trying to ramp up. That's why it runs the Venom Tongues and so forth. So we're gonna save the Javelin for the bigger creature. We're just gonna use the Lightning Bolt here. We're gonna get some damage in. Move this so it doesn't take damage from our Keening, because we're gonna go ahead and use Keening. And we're gonna reward this and call it good.
My scales move in shadow.
Well, there's the Aerostorm we were looking for quite some time ago. But now, sadly, we don't need to use it here because the Keening will do all of the work that we need it to do for us. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, at this point, I feel like it's probably fine to just go ahead and attack and then drop a Hive Defender and then ward it. Now, the enemy does run Mummify. There is a chance that they will go ahead and pummel that. We're going to move this over so that this can attack the Murkwater Shaman next turn if necessary. Alright, so still, sadly, not a lot in the way of board sweeps. So, despite running things like Firestorm and things like Ice Storm, we're not finding them, but that's okay. We have plenty of tools still in our toolbox. Let's go ahead and hit this. Reapply our ward. Drop a Keening. And then just because we have the tools here, we'll go ahead and drop the book. Do that, and we won't break this rune yet. We'd like to get just a hair more board control.
The Hist will repay me. I would protect the Hist.
Alright, so this is something that we can definitely Javelin and feel good about. And this is also something that we can go ahead and Mage's Trick. Feel good about that. We can move this over here. We can even ward it so that it stays alive. Now, because they have so few cards, we can go ahead and punch them a bit, call it good. But we've very clearly kind of got control of the board here. A lot of tools at our disposal right now. In fact, we might have to start playing stuff just to get cards out of our hand. Let's go ahead with a Tome and see what we draw. And break some runes. go ahead with a tome. Puts them on the cusp. And then what we're actually going to do is we're actually just going to move this out of the way. Reward this just because, and pass.
The hist provides.
So the guards are potentially annoying, but because we have the keening that lets us move stuff, it's not really that big of an issue. We can actually just go ahead and throw this lightning bolt face, because that means that we have lethal from the Hive Defender at this point.
If I fall, the hist.
And yeah, that is the encounter. So a lot of this, as you may have noticed, is just surviving the early tempo that they provide, and then utilizing the control tools in Control Mage. We didn't get a lot in the way of sweeps early, but they definitely help. But ultimately, using the artifacts to the best of your ability is the best way to beat this encounter. So, moving Hive Defender over, taking in the damage, beats the encounter. So, if you were struggling against Swims at Night in particular, hopefully this helps. Thanks for watching, and until next time, may you walk on warm sands.